Good evening and welcome to Keto Confab. We are a group of people trying to support each other in the keto lifestyle, specifically according to the teachings of Dr. Annette Bosworth. We welcome anyone from beginners to longtime veterans of keto. And right here at the beginning of 2023, we are working through Dr. Bosworth's workbook for Keto Continuum. And we are now in section 4, starting at page 102. If you have the book. If you don't have the book, I believe it's available both on Amazon and on Barnes and Nobles. I don't know. Oh, it's available on Dr. Boz's website as well. Anyway, so in section 1, we were introducing keto and how it can help you and helping you find your why as to why you might want to do keto. And then in section 2, we were getting you ready to begin keto and the beginning weeks of keto. And then in section 3, we went on through week 2 through 8. Now in section 4, we start talking about further on the keto continuum. Now this is the keto continuum that Dr. Bosworth drew up, and she has sections 1 through 4, which are for beginning keto, to get you into it and help your body start making ketones and turn your metabolism, your body's chemistry over to making ketones and running on ketones rather than running on sugar and carbs. And then today we're going to talk about sections 5, 6, 7, 8, which is where you start to fine tune your keto so that you run more efficiently and better, and you can start having a smaller eating window. She talks at the beginning of this section about baseline metabolism, because in section 1, we were changing our chemistry from carb and sugar based into fat and protein based, more fat. And we were helping our mitochondria start to be able to function off of a different fuel. And so once we start making ketones and eating this better fuel, we actually need less food. And many of us will forget to eat breakfast or skip over lunch because we're not hungry. We don't need it. And so this is a natural progression for the body. This is not a forced, I will not eat except for this small window of time. This is a natural progression. The body's ready for it. And she warns in all of her books not to hurry through the first section to get into the second section. You have to wait until your body's adapted. So, Scott, you weren't really doing keto to lose weight, but when did you realize that you didn't need to eat 3 meals? And what was that like for you when you realized, oh, I'm not hungry?
Well, and I think I'll start one step further back. Actually, the thing is, before I went keto, my whole life, basically, I've had a huge appetite, and I could eat quite a bit of food, and not really gain weight or anything. And I remember when I was working in Illinois about 30 years ago, one of the guys I worked with, he was probably about 6 foot and maybe 280 or so, upper maybe 300 pounds, who knows. And and we traveled together here and there quite a bit. And one time we were sitting somewhere, having lunch, and he says, I just don't understand it. I mean, you eat like twice as much as I, and you probably weigh half of what I weigh. And I said, yeah, it must be just some crazy metabolism thing. And so, I've always had a huge appetite, and actually, I would, I would get, if I didn't eat, at regular intervals at usual mealtime, I would get very hungry and sometimes, shaky and stuff. And so, so then doing the switch into keto, and I would, I read in the book, that you probably wouldn't really, have to eat meals and stuff. And I was, and I was a little skeptical of that, and also, when she said that, oh, you'll probably, not even feel the need to eat breakfast and stuff, and boy, I was really skeptical of that as well. But yeah, it's true. I don't really feel the need to eat breakfast, and I don't feel the hunger that I used to. And so, it's someone with a really high metabolism and with a really huge appetite. Yeah, I've actually, switched over pretty well. And the other thing is, I mean, and partly it was also a belief system thing, because I always thought that, well, breakfast is the most important meal of the day and you should eat a big breakfast. And I had a big appetite early in the morning for breakfast, and did eat a very substantial breakfast, pretty much all my adult life. As a kid, I think sometimes I would actually, just have a little bowl of cereal or maybe two bowls of cereal and rush off to school or something, but no, as an adult, and starting in college, I think, actually, because they had such great food there in the cafeteria at college, and I would eat a good breakfast every morning and think, yeah, it's the most important meal of the day. You're fueling up for energy for the rest of the day. And little did I know that, well, the reason you need to fuel up frequently is that you're living mostly on carbs.
Yeah, eating all that toast and French toast and pancakes and waffles and
the crepes. Remember the crepes?
Oh, they were the crepes. Oh, those were good.
Bagels and cream cheese and
Bagels.
Oh yeah, the bagels. Yes, lots of bagels.
Love the bagels.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
With peanut butter on it. Get a blueberry bagel with a little peanut butter on it. Oh yeah.
And they would have English muffins, and I love the English muffins smeared with peanut butter, and oh man, that was
butter.
so
I liked it with butter.
Yeah.
And margarine, because that was more
yes.
healthy than butter. Margarine,
yes. It was scientific, yes.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And the college we went to really believed in, soy-based foods and all sorts of stuff. And so yeah, those were the days.
Yeah, we went to a college that was vegetarian based. And so
yeah, and so
sorry for your bad luck.
right. And so pretty much
anyway, food.
Yeah, and so pretty much all of their meat substitutes were soy based.
And very sodium filled.
Yes. Yeah,
and there was usually sugar in it too.
Yeah, well, just for taste and texture.
Yeah. I was vegetarian. Scott had been raised as a meat eater.
Yeah, I'd been raised, as a meat eater, but the thing is that, I mean, the food was very, I thought anyway. I mean, there were people that did complain about this or that about the food, but to me, actually, the food tasted really great, and I
thought
mind.
The food was great too.
Yeah, I didn't mind not eating meat necessarily. I didn't ever sit there thinking, wow, I wish I had a steak, or I wish I had chicken. I never did.
And I just love that we had the option of having, waffles or toast or bagels and all the carb options, because I'm a bread lover of anything that's made of flour. So Scott, when did you first realize you weren't hungry for breakfast, that you could live without breakfast?
I don't know, actually. I there wasn't, I don't remember any specific day, and I think for me, it was kind of a gradual thing. And at first, I looked through a chronometer and tried to figure out, well, okay, what am I going to eat that's nutritious and that it will give me, all the nutrients I need and stuff. And because, I was making a major change, you know, to a non-carb based diet, and so, but I mean, at first I would eat 3 meals a day,
Mhm.
you know, pretty much. I would eat meals, you know, specific meals. But then as I got more used to keto, I realized that I didn't have to eat distinct meals. And you know, I thought that, well, see, before keto, you know, on occasion, you know, we would be, I don't know, really busy, either moving or this or traveling or whatever, you know, and I'd kind of eat here and there and kind of snack on this and snack on that, and I didn't feel, I don't know, it was, it's kind of hard to describe the feeling, but I didn't feel, well, snacking on something didn't really feel satisfying necessarily, or filling necessarily. But the thing is, now with keto, I mean, I basically snack all day. I mean, at night, but at night, you know, about this time of night, I would be, I suppose, eating maybe a meal, you'd call it, I suppose, because there are certain things that I eat, you know, at this time of night, to make sure that I get all the nutrition in that I need for that day. And you know, I mean, since I'm, you know, working all day, it's easier for me to just eat the stuff at night. And also Dr. Boz recommends that you not eat in the morning, you know, and so if I'm not eating a breakfast and I don't want to schlep all this stuff to work with me, then evening is when I'll eat most of the stuff, and it's fine. I'm fine with it. And you know, at work I have, you know, a large container of peanuts and a large container of sunflower seeds and some almonds, you know, that I'll eat. And actually at the fridge there, I do have some butter as well. So you know, I'm pretty well covered at work.
Mhm. For me, it was different because a lot of times I would wake up and I would not feel hungry at all. And I would do some
Before keto.
laundry. Yeah, before keto, I would
Yeah,
do some
yeah, yeah. I
laundry,
remember that. Yeah, right,
dishes,
right.
I'd run around, and Scott would
And
say, "Aren't
your
you going to
brother is
eat
the same
breakfast?"
way too.
And I'm like, not really hungry.
Yeah.
But now with keto, but at that time, before I ever heard anything about, you know, keto chemistry or anything, I felt guilty. I'm like, oh, I'm depriving my body of its most important meal, and I really should eat, and this is bad for me. I even though I'm not hungry, I should eat. And so there was all this guilt about not eating breakfast, you know, because I had been indoctrinated with the breakfast is the most important meal of the day thing. And but now with keto, I don't even think about putting anything in my mouth other than water until usually 1 o'clock. Then I start thinking, oh, what am I going to eat today? You know, and I really usually need to eat by 3. If I haven't eaten at 1 or 2, I need to eat at 3. I'm feeling hungry. And then if I eat at 3, depending on what I eat, I either don't want a supper meal, a second meal, or I just, you know, want to eat some eggs and that's it for supper, you know, because surprisingly enough, if I eat tuna, you know, like I make a tuna salad and maybe I put some bacon in it, I'm usually not horribly hungry for a supper, you know. But, you know, I'm like Scott, I haven't gotten the nutrients that I need to get in. So I'll usually eat some eggs and that's it. You know, I'm good. So Tammy, what about you? What did you think when you first did keto about skipping a meal when you first heard that?
Well, when I was in school, like high school and a long time ago and working and stuff, I would skip breakfast all the time. And I felt, and I wasn't even hungry, but then I fell into the trap, you know, that breakfast is the most important meal. And I started eating breakfast for whatever reason. And then later when I started keto, I can't remember the timing on everything, but I just stopped eating breakfast again. It was no big deal. I drank tea with whipping cream in it. So I drink fats in the morning anyway, and that just fills me up, and I don't even worry about it until like 12:30 or 1. And then I think, well, do I want it? I have a work refrigerator in my office, a little one. And I think, well, I usually have salami and cheese and, just some things like that in there to eat for lunch. And that's fine because I'm not even really hungry. And then I have to decide about dinner since my husband's not here to feed me anymore. So, so then it's just whatever I find. I do cook chicken, and I don't really cook anyway, but I am not hungry. I am never hungry. So I eat because the clock says it is, or I eat because maybe my husband made a dinner, or I eat because it's going to be a long time till lunch tomorrow. So, so anyway, I never eat because I'm hungry. I'm never hungry anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had a sister that started keto, and I didn't know it, but, and that's what she said. She goes, I'm never hungry. And I says, welcome to my world. I'm never hungry either. And so she's just learning all this stuff. And so I'm really excited to hear about her journey as it happens,
Yeah.
But I'm just never hungry. So I don't have to eat, and I need to. Sometimes I feel I don't eat enough because I'm not hungry, but I want to be using the body fat on my body, not eating my fat or eating stuff I don't need when I'm not hungry. So I could maybe go a little bit more formally on the fasting and just, not eat lunch or not eat dinner. And instead of snacking on cheese and salami and sugar-free Jello or, whatever I might have handy. So anyway, but I'm glad to not have to eat breakfast because it was never a thing for me. And it was not like I made bacon and eggs, you're going to eat the cereal, or you're going to eat something quick and easy, like the bagel and cream cheese and the English muffin and peanut butter, just like all the stuff we just mentioned. Those are all like good little fast breakfast things that I would eat before. And now I don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So Mel, if you want to jump in, you're more than welcome to jump in. If you have a question at this point, just unmute yourself and say, hey, or something. If you don't, that's fine. You don't have to join in. You can just listen to all of us yammer on and on. So this section 4, hi Mel, she says hi in the chat. This section 4 in the Keto Continuum Workbook talks about these eating windows. And what an eating window is from the first time you put something other than water in your mouth, your clock starts. So if that's 8 o'clock in the morning, then your eating window closes at 4 in the afternoon, right? Everybody, do I have the math right? If you're doing a 16-8, that means 16 hours of the day, you're not putting anything but water in your mouth, or tea or black coffee with no sweetener, no fats, nothing, and no snacks of any kind. And you're eating all the food you're going to eat in a day in that 8-hour window. Now, a lot of people call what they do naturally every day, which is have about a 10 or a 12-hour eating window, non-eating window, a fast. That's not really a fast, because it's not a fast if you're not pushing your body to go further without food. So that's a typical thing. If you're eating supper at 7 o'clock at night and you get up at 6 in the morning and you shower and you dress and you're eating breakfast at 7, that's 12 hours you haven't eaten. Yes, your body has fasted. It's had no snacks, no, sodas or juice or whatever in that time. But that's not technically a fast. So Dr. Boz breaks down the eating windows into 8 hours, and it can be 16-8. You can do a 4-hour eating window, which would be 20 hours, or you can go to OMAD, which is 23-1. So in your 16-8, you eat all your food, snacks, supplements in an 8-hour window, no eating, snacking, or chewing for 16 hours. And that means no gum during fasting hours. Tammy, have you ever understood why no gum?
I think just like if you drink diet pop, you're putting something sweet in your mouth, and your insulin, you're going to have an insulin reaction, even if there is no sugar. It's the sweetness in your mouth. I've read that you can put sweet stuff in your mouth and spit it out and not even swallow it, and you're still going to get an insulin reaction. And I think all gum has sweeteners in it, and it's going to be the same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
It's sweet in your mouth, even if you're going to get insulin to react to that, and it thinks that you got sweet in your body, and it's sending out insulin to take care of the sugar, and then it don't find any, and it takes care of the sugar that you do have, and then you get low blood sugar. Anyway, I've read that it has happened to some people.
Yeah, I actually have read that somewhere before too, and I just couldn't remember it in the moment. And so, yeah, so nothing in the mouth but water, or other things that are not sweet, like tea or coffee, no sugar.
Or
And
sugar substitute.
or sugar substitute, that's right, or sugar substitute. And she suggests sucking on salt. If you feel like you're starting to get hungry, to suck on salt. Have you, Scott or Tammy, done that, or Mel? Have any of you done that?
I have eaten salt. I hoped that it would help with my my leg cramps and stuff, but maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I don't know, but yes, I have had salt.
Yeah, I'm looking for my salt chunk. I have a couple
I
of
thought I
salt
had some
chunks.
in here.
Oh, you tried
I
it
think I
earlier.
moved it to the table.
I actually think the salt does help me. It's just, I don't think of it right away. Here it is. Here's my salt chunk. And I have some other salt crystals, some Redmond salt crystals that I'll pour out onto my hand and use those. I do think it helps me some. I just don't think about it enough. I need to think of it sooner, rather than when I'm like, oh, where's that salt? And I've gone too far. I'm too hungry. I'm thinking too much about food. And so then in this section 4, she talks about conquering your morning drink. Now, I did not have this problem before I started keto because I don't really drink anything other than water and plain tea. And usually it's just plain peppermint tea, no sweetener, nothing. It's just tea. I mean, I love hot chocolate, but then I read the package of when I started thinking about keto, I read the package of the hot chocolate I like. 55 carbs in a cup. 55 carbs. My head nearly blew off my shoulders. And that was the end of me and hot chocolate. Now, would I love a cup of hot chocolate? Sure, but it is just not worth 55 carbs.
That's a lot less carb than is in a can of Coke.
Yeah, well, and I don't like Coke. See, I don't really like pop,
Well, you don't like Pepsi, do you?
Yeah, no, I don't like any of that
Just kidding.
stuff. I mean, I used to really like root beer, but I didn't buy it and I didn't drink it. I like an orange soda or a grape soda or a strawberry soda, but I don't buy it, like
Or
if
knee-high, grape knee-high.
if my youngest daughter, we're at a restaurant and she gets a soda, I'll have a sip. That's it. That's all. I kind of like the bubbles in my mouth, and I think maybe that's it. It is sweet and there's bubbles, and I think I like that. So, and Scott, I don't think you ever drank anything but water at breakfast. Maybe when we were in college, I think we drank juices.
Okay, when I was a kid, I'd have a glass of orange juice, well, actually, okay. So, I mean, when I was a kid, I grew up at the time where, you'd have a glass of milk with your meal,
Mhm.
probably not at breakfast. You'd have a glass of orange juice at breakfast, but then with lunch, you'd have a glass of milk. With supper, you'd have a glass of milk, because, you got to have those strong, healthy bones. If you don't drink your milk, you're going to get rickets,
I drank milk every day, probably until I started keto. Really, I drank milk all the time.
Yeah.
Every
And-
meal. My
right.
son grew up with drinking milk at
yeah.
every meal.
And I think with the marketing, I don't think they actually told us this, but you kind of get the idea that the only source of vitamin D is milk, or certainly they told you that an excellent source of vitamin D is milk, and kind of implied that, where else are you going to get your vitamin D? Well, turns out you can get it plenty of places.
Yeah. I grew up in a family of milk guzzlers. I mean, we would go through gallons of milk a week.
And, I liked grape juice. I mean, sometimes in the morning, I'd maybe have grape juice rather than orange juice, or during the day when I was maybe feeling a little thirsty, I'd have some grape juice,
Mhm. Well, my family always had some sort of frozen juice in the freezer,
Yeah,
and we mix it up, and we always had a pitcher in the
Yep.
fridge, at least one pitcher. It was
Yeah,
either
we were like
orange
that too. Yeah.
juice, apple juice, cranberry juice, grape juice. We always
Grape,
had
yeah.
juice in the
Yep.
refrigerator at all times.
We never had juice in my house. I don't ever remember having juice.
Yeah.
Probably because there was 6 kids and my parents, so it was milk and water. We had pop. Now I have to tell you that I am a pop drinker. I am everything sweet drinker. And I drink everything now still that way. They have these loaded teas, which have just sucralose in them, and I drink those all the time. My husband found that you could buy sweet tea that's sweetened with Splenda, and it's so good. And so they tell you not to drink your carbs and your calories, but I love to drink my carbs and my calories.
Yeah. There were 4 of us in the family, just like Scott. He had 3 siblings and his parents. And we always had milk in the house, and we always had juice in the fridge. We never had soda unless there was a party. If there was going to be a party, my parents would get some soda. Or if we went out to dinner, we got to have soda, But other than that, I'm thankful I didn't drink all that soda. And that I learned about not drinking soda early.
Yeah, we were basically the same way.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's I can't imagine how much quicker my blood sugars would have gotten out of control if I was a soda drinker.
But as kids, now
remember-
that I'm remembering, as kids, we drank a lot of Kool-Aid, though.
Oh,
I mean, you might as well be drinking soda,
yeah, we didn't do the
Pop.
Kool-Aid thing at our house either.
I remember drinking Kool-Aid, and my dad would buy Pepsi, so we always had a lot of Pepsi. You could have one a day. Now, when you have 6 kids in your house, of course, some of them were younger, they didn't do it. So you could have one a day. So there's only so many. So you think they're going to go pretty quick. So you would hide the Pepsi, so you could still have one a day when it was all gone.
Or the
They were
country
glass
time lemonade.
bottles. What?
Yeah, the country time lemonade,
Oh yeah, the ones that
Yeah.
had this pre-sugar and the little thing you scoop out, how many
Yeah,
scoops you put in
had
there.
a little scoop.
Or you get the little packets of Kool-Aid where you put a cup of
Yeah.
sugar in there with
Oh
it.
yeah, the packets of Kool-Aid. Yeah, right.
Yeah, all those things, it's all the stuff that you drank when you were a kid, and just think how much sugar you drank.
Right.
As we got into adulthood, they introduced Crystal Light, which was supposed to be so much better for you because it had, artificial sweeteners and fewer calories and stuff. But I'm like, oh no.
Well, I mean, that is true, and it did have less sugar and less stuff on it, but doesn't mean it was any better for you. Just, I mean, it was better for you. It wasn't sugar, but
Yeah.
But it wasn't the best.
Mhm. So, number 5 on the keto continuum is where you're eating that 16-8. Number 6 is where you clean up your morning drink. You no longer add any fats or sweeteners or anything into it, no butter, no calories. And you still are doing 16-8. But the number 7 is the OMAD, where you're going 23-1. Now, before I went OMAD, I was 24, where I would have a 4-hour window, like eating at 2 and finishing eating at 6. That's how I managed things for a while before going OMAD. And so she suggests checking your blood sugar numbers right before you eat. And all your calories and sweeteners have to be in an hour, and only salt, water, tea, or coffee in the 23 hours. And then number 8 is advanced OMAD, which is 23-1, and you move your eating hour within 11 hours of sunrise. So if the sun comes up at 8 in the morning, your hour to eat would be by 7. You eat at 7, right? Is that the way I'm reading that? Because for us, is the sun coming up at 8 now, Scott, or is it coming up at 7?
Yeah, a little after 8. Yeah.
A little after 8. So 11 hours would be a little after 7, and that would be when we'd have our OMAD meal.
Yeah.
And then move your eating hour within 11 hours following sunrise to match your circadian rhythm. So it's a circadian rhythm thing. So that's good. So then over on page 104, she talks about what season of life you're in, because there are certain seasons of life that are harder to deal with changes and are more stressful. And so you shouldn't choose to start keto because your mother died and you want to change your life right now, or because your daughter's getting married in 6 months and you want to lose weight. Those aren't really good reasons to change everything, because they can also be very stressful periods of time. She has a whole list of, the most stressful times. I had a friend from high school contact me because she saw my story of losing all this weight and getting healthy and everything. And she says, I need to do that. And I happen to know that her older sister had just been killed accidentally in an accident like the week before. And I felt bad writing to her, but I told her, you're in the midst of grief, and I know you want to do this, and I'll help you do this anytime you want. But right now is probably not the best time. And it really wasn't, because just a couple of months later, her mother suddenly passed away. And that was a double whammy, and it was very difficult. And when I've talked to her since then, she took more than a year and a half after both of them passed away to be ready to, pick up the pieces of her life and move on. Melody, you asked us before bed. What do you mean before bed? We were talking about that 11 hours after sunrise. Before bed, what are you asking about? I had mentioned checking your blood sugar, but that was before you eat your 1 meal a day. I don't know that I was saying anything about before bed, but let us know in the chat. Then she talks about support groups and the importance of support groups. And she also talks about your cravings analysis. So she has a cravings analysis exercise here. Why are you eating? Yeah. So 11 hours past sunrise, like I said, our sunrise here is at 8 o'clock in the morning. So 11 hours past sunrise would be 7 p.m. Yes, that's after dark because our sun goes down at 4:30, 5 o'clock. Now it's like 5:30, right, Scott? Sun going down around 5:30. Yes.
Yeah, like 5:40. Yeah.
Yeah. But Dr. Boz doesn't live in the middle of the tundra. She doesn't live in a place that has very short hours of sunlight. And if you don't want to eat at 7 p.m., that's fine. Oh, you go to bed at 8:30. See, I'm not in bed till way later than what Dr. Boz would suggest. I'm not going to say when. So you adjust it to what you're comfortable with and what you want to do. She also says, don't go to bed within 2 hours of eating. Let your food settle before you go to bed. So if you know you're going to bed at 10:30, don't be eating at 10 o'clock, you know? And I know that for me, if I do eat late, I can't lay down and go to bed right away. I have to sit up for at least an hour. And it's one of my bad habits of eating late because I get busy with something and I forget to eat. So if you've got carbs, if you've got cravings for food, you know, she has an exercise in here to try and help you figure out why you're craving. And you know, for me, it's stress. As soon as I feel stress, I'm like, I want to put something in my mouth. I usually want chocolate, and that's why we don't keep it in the house, except for that dark chocolate stuff that I found, the Leo's, pretty much sugar-free, 80% cacao, dark chocolate, which has salt, and I do like it. And usually I eat just one of the little squares, you know, it's got a square like about that size. And I'm good. I suck on it and let it melt in my mouth. So she goes on to talk about how long do I stay at Keto Continuum number 5? How long do I stay at 6? How long do I stay at 7? How long do I stay at 8? It's all very individual. It's all very individual. When you feel ready, when you feel comfortable, is the time to move on. And the other thing is some people, if they're trying to do this to lose weight, will have a plateau with their weight loss. And if you've got a plateau, then it's time to push further into the continuum if you're ready. You know, if you're barely hanging on doing the 16-8 or the 16-8 without fats or sweeteners in your coffee, it's not the time to push on to OMAD. You need to get that under control. And then she has a bunch of charts that you can use to be checking yourself to make sure you're doing the right thing. Then on page 112, she talks about measuring ketones. And she suggests measuring just with the pee sticks at first, and don't bother buying or wasting your money on a ketone monitor, blood monitor, until you're consistently producing ketones on the pee sticks. And this is to save you a little money and a little fuss, because a lot of people don't like to poke themselves. Tammy, did you use the urine strips at first, or did you?
I did use the urine strips at first, but I did not really see any color changes on them. And so it was disappointing. I don't know if I had a bad batch or maybe they were old. I mean, at the time that I had it, I was just like, well, this isn't working. So I just bought a blood meter at that point, and I did that. And it was, I think I had it though long before. I had the blood meter before I started with Dr. Boz, but I did try the pee thing strips with her when I started the program. And then I just went back to my strips. I had to buy more for the unit because, you know, didn't have any at that time.
Yeah. I started with the pee dipsticks or pee strips, and it took forever for mine to turn pink. Now I understand that was because I was so insulin resistant and I had so much sugar built up in my liver that, I had to wait for it to clear. I think it took, a lot of people that I've worked with, it'll take 3, 4, 5 days, me, I'm sure it took like 21 days or something for me to pee anything other than nothing. I really thought the pee strips were bad, except for Scott was peeing on them and getting it dark purple. I'm like,
Yeah. Well, I didn't have somebody to test the pee strips on, so I just kind of got frustrated with them, and maybe I was in the same boat as you were, but I just didn't have anybody to bounce it off of. So I just went back to my meter and
well,
did that.
I didn't realize what was happening. I just persisted. I'm like, okay, she says to pee on the sticks, I'm going to pee on the sticks, So I just kept peeing and peeing, and I'm like, where's the pink? Where's the pink? And
Why
finally,
does Scott got pink and I don't get pink?
exactly. It's like, man, I did not like that. But, come on. Scott's this scrawny 165-pound person who has no health problems, and I'm the one with all the health problems, and I weighed 320 pounds, So, okay, of course, things are going to take longer for me and be more difficult. And so, okay. Then on page 113, she talks about the Bos ratio, which is you take your blood sugar number and your ketone number, and you do math, and it comes out with a number. And she has a chart that she's shared with all of us that does the conversion for you and everything. Glucose divided by ketones. And then there's levels of it. If you get an 80 of the Dr. Bos ratio, you might be getting autophagy and weight loss. Under 40, there's a solid chance of autophagy and repair of the immune system. And under 20 is your best chance of autophagy. And this is the goal for people with cancer. I have gotten a lot of Dr. Bos ratios at 40 or below. I've only been at 20 or below a very few times. Scott doesn't test his very often, so I don't know if he's ever gotten to 20 in his ratio. He does not like poking himself. He's talked before about how he's used his earlobe for testing, blood testing, because it doesn't hurt on the earlobe. He just can't poke the finger. What about you, Tammy? Have you ever gotten any Dr. Bos ratios, or do you ever?
Oh, when I was in the program, and in your first year that I was in it, I had a lot of them. I weighed my salad on chronometer, and I counted everything and weighed everything, and I took my blood sugar, and I was in the 20s and 30s, and that's when I lost, 40 pounds, 50 pounds, whatever I lost. And, but then, you slack off, and now I don't have no Dr. Bos ratio down even 80. So I'm getting back into trying to be strict, but I still drinking those sweet drinks. And I really think that's my downfall. I'm going to have to finish up my stash, because I know that if I try to stop drinking them and I got a little stash of things over there, it's not going to work. So I'm going to have to drink all those through and have none in the house before I can do that. And so, but yeah, I hope to get back to that. I don't waste my strips and test nearly as much as I did before. You were exciting, especially when you had good numbers and you were losing weight. You wanted to see that you were having progress. And since I'm not having that kind of progress right now, I just don't bother testing and wasting the strips. Yeah, they're expensive. I mean, I test them maybe once or twice a week. I'm at maybe around 1. I've been at 1.4, 1.7. I've been at 0.8 and stuff. So as long as I am making ketones right now, I'm happy. And they don't have to be at 2 or 3 like I had before. And they say that really the higher it is, it doesn't mean you're going to lose more weight if you're higher. It just means your body's making ketones.
Mhm. Yeah,
And I know she wants you to be at a higher level of ketones, but they say that doesn't really matter. Whether you're at 1 or 3 or 2, it doesn't matter.
well, I was talking to someone else from the neurons group, and she was telling me that she had talked with Dr. Boz privately, and she has a lot of health problems, a lot of autoimmune issues, diabetes, hypertension, and she had had cancer in the past. She's currently cancer-free. And Dr. Boz said that the more repairs the body needs to do, the more damage there's been in the body from hypertension or liver disease or cancer or autoimmune diseases, the higher numbers of ketones do help do the repairs faster. She says the whole goal is to have ketones 1 and above. And the higher ketones don't say you're going to lose weight faster, you know, but it does help with repair. And she says, you know, this woman had very high cholesterol. She had clogged arteries. She told me she had just a laundry list of problems. And so she was always working to try and get her ketones higher so that those problems could be repaired. Because ketones are repairing cells. They repair, just like cholesterol repairs. Cholesterol is part of our repair crew in the body. So having the higher numbers. And so now I could hear Dr. Boz saying something like that. Do I have proof she said it? I don't. I'm just saying.
Well, I agree. I mean, if you are treating a cancer, or where you are trying to keep your carbs and sugar to the very lowest and not feed the cancer, you having the epilepsy that it treats. If you're having a problem and that is treating it, that is different than just weight loss.
Right.
You have a medical reason to keep it high and keep your carbs at 0, as close to 0 as you can. You know, and then the standard, you know, weight loss person like me. That's me.
Yeah.
Without having all the medical problems. So if you got medical problems, you may treat that a lot different.
Yeah. So after talking to her about that, I'm like, okay, well then I'm happy at 1 or above. I'd love it to be 2, you know, or above. But I don't very often get to 2. You know, but you know, keto has already healed my liver. It's done a lot for me already. And as long as I can keep this level of health, I'm okay. I'm good. I would like to lose more weight. And I'm hoping once spring hits, then I can go out walking the dog again and not fall on my patootie. Yeah, I'm very anti-falling. I know it's weird, but I did not like the back injury I had last year. That was very unpleasant, and it took quite a while to fight back from it. And so yeah. Anyway, all right. Well, then she goes on after talking about that. There's a lot of charts that people can use to chart their progress and what they're doing, and everything. And pretty much the rest of the section is all about, you know, keeping track of your stats and when you're eating and what your goal is, and you know, and stuff, and lots of very useful charts. I don't use them because I use the Chronometer app, and I just know when I eat and everything. So I'm not using the paper charts, but that isn't because they're not useful. They are. And that takes us through section 4. So are there any comments, snide remarks, questions from anybody before we close out this one? and talk on section 4. And next week is section 5. We're talking about fasting cycles. A lot of people really get into the fasting and everything. I haven't done as much fasting as I know I probably should. It's not that fasting is that terribly hard. It's not that I haven't had success fasting. It's just I don't
It
have,
doesn't fit into your life very well.
no, and I don't have a very consistent life. You know, this and that happens constantly. And like I said, I'm a stress eater. And so those moments of stress would tend to throw me off. And I think if I was trying to do a 72-hour fast and something touchy happened, that would be the end of the fast. So I'd really rather not set up a 72-hour fast and not fail at it than set it up and fail.
Well, it's just like anything else that we've done. You know, if you can't do one meal a day, then you certainly can't fast. And you don't do the 72-hour fast first. You go to 36 hours, take your 24 and go to the next morning, and then go to the next lunch and do 48. I would not tell you to try to jump into a 72-hour fast first. You do the little baby steps, just like you talked about the 16-8 and the OMAD, you know. If you can't do one, then you certainly can't go to the next. And if you can't do 36 hours, you can't do 72.
Right.
And you have to do it at the right time. Like maybe when somebody is on vacation, or maybe your kids are gone or something, where you don't have to cook food for other people. I mean, you can't do those kind of things and think that you're going to be successful at fasting.
Yeah, that the whole thing about cooking food for other people, I don't have a lot of trouble with it because Scott cooks for himself, and he eats completely different than I do because of my food allergies. And then our youngest daughter, she cooks for herself. She is not keto, but she cooks for herself. And then our autistic daughter, she is keto, and I plan out her meals and cook those, you know, ahead of time, or they're all planned. So I don't have a problem, but I do have clients who have younger children, and they're like, well, what do I do? You know, they're going to basketball games, and I have to go and watch their basketball games. And, you know, there's chips and candy and pop and popcorn all around. And I'm like, take your own meal, you know. Oh, then I look like a dork sitting in the stands eating my meal, and everyone else is eating the nachos or the taco in a bag. And I'm like, well, then
you
stuff yourself with chicken wings before you go to the thing, you know. I mean, what do you want me to say? It is very hard. It's very challenging. And like, your husband isn't into keto, and if he expected you to fix him some, you know, meat and potatoes every night, you know, would you find it hard? I mean, you could still eat the meat, but would you skip the potatoes?
Well, that doesn't happen. He's the cook in the house, and he works second shift, so he's gone all week. I only see him on the weekends.
Yeah.
So that doesn't happen, but he's always been the cook in the house, so he makes what he wants, and then I choose to eat it or not. And he knows what I'm going to eat. If he makes potatoes, he knows I'm not going to eat it. He knows I want, you know, asparagus or broccoli or, you know, whatever, a salad, and I'll just make that. He'll make potatoes, and then I'll just make a salad for me, you know. So he used to be not so pleasant about me not eating stuff that he cooks, but he's a lot better than he used to be.
So the last thing I'm going to leave you with is a couple days ago, I watched a video by a guy named JP Sears or something like that. He's from California. And he was talking about how food companies have again influenced our federal government to make some changes in the food guidelines, the food pyramid and everything. And I just felt that his video on it was very I thought it was very well put together about how, the food companies are in bed with our government, or our government's in bed with the food companies, and they're feeding us, a lie that we need 8 to 11 servings of carbs each day, grains each day to be healthy. And I just felt that his presentation was pretty good. So I'm going to put it as a link in this video when I put it up on YouTube tonight. So you can take a look at that if you want. And then I also watched yesterday, I just came across a woman who went carnivore. She went carnivore because she was a mess. She was 300 and some pounds and sick and just a mess. And she just decided, this is crazy. And so she just decided to go carnivore. And she's been carnivore for like 8 months, I think. She's lost a lot of weight and she's gotten healthy. And she's like, people are lying to us about food. They're just lying to us, and we're feeding our children stuff, and we're feeding ourselves stuff, and we're making ourselves customers for the healthcare people who are supposed to help keep us healthy, but these people tell us the wrong things to eat on the regular basis. So that one was good too, and I think I'll link that as well. You don't have to watch it if you don't want to, and if you don't like what it says, that's fine. I thought they were good presentations, interesting. And I know you, Melanie, is a vegetarian, and you probably wouldn't care to hear about this woman that went carnivore, but she's interesting. And I just wish more people would realize that our government really isn't in the business of trying to help us be healthy. And so, all right. Oh, Melody laughs. What are you laughing at, Mel? Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, so true. They're not in the business of trying to make us healthy. So, all right. Well, I'm going to end this now, if the mouse will let me. First, I'm going to turn off the recording.